All right, well, I think we'll get going here. Uh, got a decent crowd, and again, hopefully we get a few more folks logging in. So this evening, our competition is shallow depth of field. We've got 31 images here and two of them for critique only, which will be at the end. A little bit of club news before we get rolling here. As you all know, we had a survey recently. We had 20 or so people from the club participate in the survey, and from that, I will have a bit more information in the November newsletter, a bit more of a synopsis, but just want to hit a couple of key points tonight. One of the things that was decided was about ribbons and awards. We've decided, and we had an executive board meeting last week also, where we went over this stuff and as a group made a few decisions, but we're not going to be doing ribbons next year for the people who get a 10. Instead, what we're going to do is I'll create a PDF certificate kind of thing, which will be very easy for me to put in the person's name, the image title, an actual snapshot of the image, a small thumbnail of the image, and then I'll be sending those out to people who get a 10. That'll be something a little bit snazzier that you could potentially, as Todd said he would do, is print out and put on the refrigerator, just like the kids' artwork. But I think because the image itself will be on there, it'll be, a little bit more direct and maybe mean a little bit more than a ribbon that perhaps a lot of people are just like sticking in a drawer somewhere. I just popped an image in the chat. There we go. It's just a mock-up. It's a quick thing I did in Canva. It's not going to be the actual thing, but just to give you an idea, just to give you a representation of what the thing might look like. But I think it'll be a little bit nicer than the ribbons at the end of the year. And this I'll be putting out each month after a competition, so you'll have it immediately too. You won't have to wait till the end of the year for this stuff. We did all decide that print competition we're not going to do anymore. That may change in the future, but for next year, there will be no print competition. So the website and all the documentation, competition rules, and those kind of things will be modified to reflect that. And there was, the majority of people did like the idea of putting the photographer of the year, have a page on the website showcasing. So I'll be working on kind of a layout and format for that and a way to collect the information from people. So we'll be recognizing the photographer of the year on our website from now on. We will be keeping hybrid meetings, so we'll still be doing a Lone Tree and Zoom. Of course, Lone Tree should be finishing up their renovations before the end of this month, and we'll get back there next month. But we already have all the dates set for next year, and everything is set for us to be doing meetings at Lone Tree. And I hope that everybody, and again, I'll put this out in the newsletter too, because the number of names that I see here are people that would normally go to Lone Tree, but a number of people expressed a desire for more participation at Lone Tree. Well, to that I have to say, that's up to you guys. You have to make the decision to go down there. I can't force you. So the more people we can get down there, the more that we can see each other in person, have that camaraderie, have that connection, have a little chat before the meeting or after the meeting or whatever. That's the kind of thing that helps build up the club. The other thing is the annual dinner we'll be having December 11th. We'll be going to the same location we did last year, and Gwen she's been working on that. And when she puts together all the information, I'll distribute it out to everybody, and there'll be information about the meal itself and the location and, reserving your spot there and everything else. So that should be coming in the next couple of weeks, I would assume. And last but not least, of course, I will mention that, we still need people to run the club for 2025. A number of people who are currently serving, myself included, Will not be continuing our positions for next year. I'm currently looking for volunteers for president, vice president, membership competitions, and a secretary. And we also need somebody to take Bill's place at Lone Tree to run the audio there and to connect to Zoom and just handle that little bit at the meetings at Lone Tree. So if anybody's got technical expertise and would be willing to do that, that would be great. Or for any of those other positions that you're interested in, I'd appreciate shoot me an email, get in touch with me. Let me know your desires to take any of those positions. Looking around, I don't see any guests. I actually only had one that filled out the form on the website that would be a possibility. So I think we will just jump right in and let's get towards our competition.
I was just going to say quickly that I would like to propose Carl for president for next year. But anyway, that's just my thought.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Appreciate that. 2 years is enough, I think. I'd really love to have somebody else accept that headache. I mean, that position for next year. That would be wonderful. But thanks for the vote of confidence. I do appreciate that. Ben, did you want to say anything? Ben's doing a presentation for the group next month on processing and editing black and white photos. Ben, do you want to say anything about that while I have you here?
Yeah, I'm really excited to have the opportunity to share what I've learned. I do want to emphasize. I want to put the emphasis on the last syllable that by no means I'm an expert. This has been really the product of joining the club and getting my initial review for placement that allow me to go ahead and see my images a different way. So that discovery that I've done throughout the year, it's really what I want to share with you. Most of the stuff, it's stuff that I learned from other people. And I'm going to be very candid and honest, but I'm sincerely happy to have the opportunity to share it with you guys, and hopefully this will be helpful to all of you.
Great. Well, thank you. Yes, we are thankful that you're willing to share your knowledge and experience. Appreciate that very much. So this evening, our competition is shallow depth of field. I think that's a fairly self-explanatory for anybody who's held a camera for more than a year. Basically, we were looking for people to use depth of field creatively, so that draws the viewer's eye to the main subject. Generally, we're drawn to the sharper part of the images and not the blurred background or the out of focus areas near the subject. So we were just looking for your best representation of shallow depth of field. Our judge this evening is new to the club, Jamie Konarski Davidson, who was suggested by Gwen. Thank you, Gwen. Jamie joins us from North Carolina. And here's a little bit about her. Jamie's an award-winning freelance nature photographer, workshop leader, presenter, and Lensbaby Ambassador. Photography and flowers are her soul feeders, allowing her to capture and share beauty in nature in ordinary places. She connects with all things old and finds a special beauty in decay and fading cultural lifestyles that resonate with a life of hard work. Jamie's interpretive style reflects an intentional approach. Her work ranges from florals and still life, macro and close-up, to landscapes, both intimate and grand, abstracts in color, wabi sabi, and infrared. Through her company, New Life Photos, Jamie leads location workshops throughout the East Coast in color and infrared, and is available for personal instruction and speaking engagements. Her goals as an instructor are to encourage, inspire, and help people grow in their photography skills, connect with their subjects, and see beyond the obvious so that they can discover their own visual voice. Her website is newlifephotos.com, and you can also find her on Facebook and Instagram. Jamie, is there anything you want to add to that?
I think that is probably more than enough. I guess I do want to say thank you for inviting me to be this month's judge. Shallow depth of field is really kind of a style that I use a lot in my photography, more than the everything in sharp focus and deep depth of field. And I just want to say that that my way of judging is really to offer some suggestions and comments that hopefully are helpful, and they're really just my view, right? So if you don't like what I say, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you don't agree. So take what you feel is usable and worthy, and leave the rest at the door.
Well, that's kind of the way that we do judging around here. Yes. One of the statements that I heard when I first joined the club was, on competition night, you leave your ego at the door. And yeah, like you said, this is a learning experience. Whether it's your image or somebody else's image, we can all learn from the commentary that you give on any specific image. So.
Yeah, I mean, we all see the world differently. So
exactly.
that's how this works.
Fred will be showing the images this evening. As we go through them, I'll read the title, and then Jamie will go to you for your commentary on each image and score. As we go through there, as we accumulate some 9s and 10s, we'll stop at specific places and talk to the makers of the images, and we'll get through these 30 some odd images and hopefully not keep you up too late tonight. All right, our first image is called Calibration. Because we know that Zoom mangles images sometimes, so if you're looking at this and it feels like this is off just a little bit, just know that every image you look at tonight will be off just slightly. To me, it looks pretty good. Saturation may be a little bit lower than normal, but colors look pretty accurate to me. But your screen's different, whether it's calibrated or not. If we're ready, let's go to number 1. This is 4 going on 40.
Okay. So I really appreciate the translation into black and white here. And normally, something in the foreground that is soft focus would be a distraction. The challenge here, I think that the boy's expression is very cute. What I do wish is that his face or his eyes were sharp. The shirt is sharper, but I also recognize and understand that when little kids are doing what they do, it's a quick action that you have to be ready for. So I gave this one an 8. It was kind of in between. I know you just have it was like between an 8 and a 9, and mostly it was the 8 because the eye is not sharp.
This is Calypso Orchids.
So I was able to zoom in and look at each of the orchids, and they were done very well. The background is soft enough for the shallow depth of field qualification. The one thing that bothered me, which I think is fixable, easily fixable, is on the third one, the light area on the bottom. It's a distraction and pulls your eye away from those orchids. I don't know if this was, if whoever did this did focus stacking, but the background is soft enough for the competition. I gave it a 9, with the distraction being the part on the bottom.
Flower and Shadow.
Okay, so this one, looking at the title, when there are titles provided, I pay attention to them so that I'm understanding what the intention was. So the intention is to include the shadow. When you've got a subject like this and it has a lot of features and a lot of things that are close to the background, it's really hard to simplify and that's the thing here that that's the thing that for me is a little bit more complicated, is that busy background, which makes sure I go to the back before you come back up. The red is beautiful. There's enough sharp focus on the flowers, and the shadow is sharp, but the background being a bit busier, because it's a challenging subject with the close distance of the rest of the leaves. I gave it a 7.
Sueno Suave.
So I love the color palette here, and the background is very nicely soft. A lot of times we might think that all of these flowers have to be in sharp focus, and that's not always the case. I think having that one sharp is enough here because of the balance of the colors. Things that I would look at are the areas down at the very bottom of the stem of the star flower. Things that just sort of draw your eye away. And so the little squiggly on the flower next to it, just things that we can kind of deal with either by cropping or by healing or painting, would help this. Again, in my from my perspectives, I gave it an 8.
Settling the score.
So this was one of the images that that stood out to me for a number of reasons. Number one, it's very simple, clean and simple. The subject matter is well captured, well exposed, and the glasses are sharp enough around the frame, and also the notes. And that shallow depth of field, which the notes fade into the background, I really appreciate. I gave this a 10. If I were going to suggest anything, I might close the corner on the top right. The other one is big enough and makes sense, but perhaps filling that in with more of the page. Something to think about.
Searching eyes.
Okay. So this is very well done. The eye is sharp in this. I'm going to say a wild dog because I don't know what else to call it. I think it's well done. The background is sufficiently shallow. I think the thing that, you know, nature is what nature is, and if I could have moved the dog over a little bit and have that tree not so strong behind, that might have been something that you know, we can't get rid of everything, and the situation is what it is. I gave this a 9.
From my garden.
The flower is beautiful. I love the echinacea, and where it is sharp is appropriate. The top part is sharp. The petals on the front area are sharp, and the background, I'm gonna assume, was shallow depth of field because we've got the other flower that's just slightly behind, that's smaller and shows not the same level of or degree of sharpness. I'm personally not the biggest fan of the white vignettes, particularly in this case, mostly because it's covering up the head or the quote eye of the flower, and I think that that we need a little bit more of that from my perspective. So I gave it an 8.
Slice of blue.
So kudos to whoever did this to get the eyes and that very shallow edge depth of field of this. It's either a moth or a butterfly. The balancing act, of course. These are tough because they move around a lot as well. The dark area behind it and to the one side, maybe they could be toned down a little bit so that the moth or the butterfly, I think it's I think it's a butterfly. Anyway, doesn't matter. But well done on getting the head and the face and the front part of the legs and the part of the antennae working really well. I give this an 8.
Grass blades.
So here's another subject where it's really tough to isolate for strong depth of field. The background is complementary. We've got, the same tones and colors in the back, the same lines and shapes. Where I think there's a challenge is, where do you cut it off? The grasses that go up into the top corner kind of lead the eye out. And this is just tough, because parallel to your subject, there's only so much you can do to soften the background. And I think from that perspective, it's well done, but watching your edges and making sure that things aren't like too tight in the box. I do appreciate the square crop. And okay, so I gave this one a 7.
Circles of confusion.
Okay, so I love the square crop and the round peg in the square hole and all of the bokeh bubbles. It is confusing because I'm thinking, okay, shallow depth of field, and I'm seeing a lot of detail in the bokeh, bouquet, however, potato. But I appreciate the creativity here, and I'm just not quite sure exactly what I'm looking at. I gave this an 8.
A corny picture.
I love the creativity here. I don't know that the leaves were that color or that tone, but I really like how the use of that toning, if it is not what was actually real, how it allows the acorns to pop out of the image. And the background is clean so that your subject really is just, here it is, and all the leaves that are in the back are soft enough, and so only what matters is sharp. And I gave this a 10.
Hello, friend.
And you have to say it like that too.
Yes, you do.
It's really cute. The eye is reasonably sharp from what I could tell. This is again one of those moments where you've got to be fairly quick. Really good handling of the shallow depth of field. I guess I'm just a little bit picky on things that draw my eye away from the subject. I love the shadow underneath this. I'm going to say lizard, but the little area of underneath the leg and the stem is a little bit distracting, and I gave this a 9.
Jamie, are you familiar with the annotation tools in Zoom?
Well, probably not.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, if you were, then you could use them to indicate specific areas you're talking about. If you're talking about a specific part of an image, annotation tools would help. Fred, let's pop back to the lizard image, because I'm curious about whether you're talking about the dark spot or the light spot.
that there,
Gotcha.
and ever so slightly, I don't think this is like a major thing, but over here, anything that pulls my eye away is something that if it were my image, I would be trying to address.
Sure. Very good. This is needles.
Again, the challenge here is that you've got these pine needles just laying on the ground. And the question is, you know, who's the star? What's the goal of the image? There's some light issues that and distractions like this here, this up here, that kind of get in the way. So for me, if I were just using these as my subject, I might get in closer, right? So, just, I don't know, just very, very rough drawing, but, something a little bit more targeted for needles. And because they're so close to the ground, it's really hard to, to kind of get a cleaner background. That's not like the only way to do it, but we've got to pick like which needles we want to be sharp and to focus on. So I gave this a 7. You probably created a monster with the annotation thing.
Actually, I don't personally. I find it very helpful because when you're talking about specific parts of the image, being able to note those, it makes it more clear what you're talking about. So,
Gotcha.
all right.
Gotcha.
So this little guy, this is Peking Puffin.
So, you can't help but love a puffin, right? The depth of field is definitely shallow. We've got this foreground here, and I'm only going to do little marks. That is definitely soft, and the puffin is sufficiently sharp. Where I think we have some distractions are really in this neighborhood. And so, a vertical crop or a square, might be a way to clean the image up. And also I would suggest on the face of the puffin, because the foreground is so light, that I might add a little bit of brightness to the face. There's a tool I use Nik software, and in Color Effects Pro, I'm going to get rid of these. Color Effects Pro, there's dark and light and center, and you can place the center, and it really helps to bring your eye to the thing that is most important. I think this is well done. I gave it an 8.
Melody, Wind at Her Back.
This is lovely. The choice of black and white is a good choice here. I'm sure that the fabric or background was very colorful. There's good separation of the subject, including the microphone and the profile and the blowing hair from the background. Really appreciate that, and I gave this a 9.
All right, this is Just Landed, and Fred, after this one, will stop and look at the 9s and 10s and talk to the makers. We're about halfway through.
It appears that the color of the flower is a little bit popped up, but the butterfly itself, it's sharp where it needs to be, the eye and the head and the profile of the wing. Just paying attention to distractions that come into play, like in the corners, these areas where green is popping in. Otherwise, I think this was well done. I gave this a 9.
All right, so this is Calypso Orchids from Ron Schaller.
Thank you, Jamie. Yes, this was focus stacked I had to do it over, I would have taken more images. It seemed like I ended up with areas that were not quite as sharp, that I ended up transplanting from individual images after I did the focus stack. So the distraction there was a good call, that lower area on the stem there. So thank you for that. Thank you for your critique.
Yeah, and just something else. I mean, I don't do a lot of focus stacking, but I know when it's needed in order to capture what you've done, and it was definitely well done. I will say that if you have an opportunity to try the focus stacking again, and you're using a macro lens or where you can get to f2.8 or f4, it'll take a lot more images. But that's one way that many moons ago, someone did focus stacking in a greenhouse, and it was during a time when it took forever for the computer to process, but the result with the background was amazing. So, and I learned too that, very often you need more frames for focus stacking than you think you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is Settling the Scores from David Besson.
Jamie, thank you for your comments. Greatly appreciate them. This was a little bit tricky because I agree with you about the top right corner being dark, and it'd be nice if it weren't there, but I couldn't get an angle that was sufficient, for the composition of the picture. I without cutting the glasses off significantly or cutting the music off. So the kind of best thing I did was to just do a little mask there and darken that corner. But I agree with you. It would be nice if it were, the same color as the music page.
Well, what you might do is you might pretend that there's more music.
True. Yeah.
And fill in that corner in that way.
Right.
There's something else underneath that stack.
Right.
Find yourself a larger sheet of music.
This was 8.5 by 11, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
The score to settle another day.
There you go. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Jamie.
Searching Eyes. This is from Dan Greenberg.
Hi, so this was taken at the Denver Zoo, and basically it's just the kind of thing I kept asking him to move over and he wouldn't. And so, so I took this, and this is taken from quite a ways away, so it's taken with like the equivalent of a 600 millimeter lens and stuff, shot wide open. So, but since it's micro four thirds, the nice thing is even if you're shooting it wide open at f4, you're still getting a lot more depth of field than you ordinarily would. So at least, I like it this way, where his nose, his ears, his entire head, even his body's still sharp, which is what I like. And of course, it was a great autumn day with light, coming through the leaves in the background and stuff like that. So that was it. And then, like I said, I was thinking that thing with the tree as well, but I looked at it this way: since it was side lit a little bit, it was making his ear, his ear and his nose and his hind legs still stand out a lot. So I, figured that was acceptable and stuff like that. So anyway, thank you very much for your comments. I really appreciate them. And thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And A Corny Picture is from Terry Hanford.
Yeah, this was taken at the botanical gardens. Yeah, the leaves were that color. It was a bit surprising to me. I recognize the acorns, but I certainly don't recognize that as an oak leaf. So I'm as surprised by the plant as you are, but I enjoyed the picture. It is marginally focus stacked. It was a couple pictures to get the very tip of the acorns in focus, as well as back to the head of it. So thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah, the leaves remind me of a holly.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing when I saw that.
Yeah, I just have never seen a holly with these acorns in it.
Right, exactly, yeah. Hello, friend. This is from Joy Lindholm. I don't believe Joy is on this evening, but she did write a a nice paragraph for us. She said, I stumbled across this little fellow while I was taking photos of plants in a botanical garden in Honolulu this summer. I was quite surprised to encounter it, and the words "hello friend" fell out of my mouth. So that's why I chose the title. I love the curious expression on his face and was happy that it didn't scare it off too quickly. I ended up combining 2 images in Photoshop so I could get the whole head in focus, as the depth of field was very narrow. Well, excellent result. Melody, Wind at Her Back is from Steve Wilton. Oh, and I thought Steve was on this evening, but he's not.
Well done.
Yeah, it is a very nice image. Oh, he just has a single sentence here. It's just from Louisville Weekly Street Fair. The singer's real name is Melody.
Hmm.
And one more just landed. This is from Allie Green. Allie travels a lot, so she doesn't attend too many of our competition meetings, but she did say that this was shot with my macro lens and a steady hand. So I assume the shutter speed was down a little bit low for that. Okay. And this is Cottonwood Leaf.
Okay. So, nature is funny, right? We very often are looking for these perfect leaves, but they're very, very rare and hard to find in their peak. So I can appreciate the age and wear of this leaf. I like the way that it comes into the frame from the top corner with sufficient additional leaves. Also making their way into the frame to give a little bit of context. The background is well done, and I gave this a 9.
Exotic Flower.
So this is an interesting flower, definitely exotic. The edge of the edge here is nicely sharp and into the curl, and the little hairs on the stem there are also well done. The tongue of the flower that is coming out is sufficiently sharp as well. What was this one again? Exotic Flower?
Exotic Flower, yes.
Okay. So the background is kind of an interesting color. It does allow the flower to stand out. This is another one of those in between 8 and 9. I gave this an 8.
Vintage Irises.
So we have really nice color going on here. A slightly busy background, but the things that I look at more are the things that kind of come into the frame that are sharp enough to draw your eye down into the corner. And those are the things that when you're shooting, when I'm shooting, I try to pay attention to those and maybe either move the leaves if it's possible or address them in post. And little things like, drawing the eye up to the top instead of keeping your eye sort of focused on the stars of the image. I gave this an 8. The flowers themselves, by the way, are well captured.
This is Butterfly.
Okay, so there's a couple things going on with this image. It's not exactly sharp. The butterfly itself is not exactly sharp, and we have a really busy background. And we also have a situation where the light itself is also kind of distracting. So got a lot of things that just are challenges. And overcast lighting would be perfect. You know, we can't order that up. I typically will use a 22-inch diffuser to even out the lighting, and that helps. Waiting for clouds if there are any in existence. When the light is tough like this, it's just really hard. Plus, these butterflies, they just move, and so they're not still, and it's just a big challenge. But in terms of the depth of field, we've got a little too much with that background, and I gave this a 7.
Hanging in there.
Very cool. This is, I think this is a riding spider. The Latin name is either Argiope or Argiope. I don't know which is the correct way to pronounce it. Like the black and white choice, a lot of times we have subjects and backgrounds that just don't play well together. So black and white is a good option. The spider itself is nicely sharp. A little bit of, you know, we've just got to pick and choose, right? But that's a little bit distracting, and maybe, you know, this is not critical, right? But just pointing it out when we've got something, a dark line like that in the background, softening the darkness, the toning of it, can be helpful. So I give this a 9.
Tulips at sunrise.
Good handling of the depth of field. I'm just going to say I love flowers, and I love this idea. What is really strong for me is the dirt, and then these little things at the beginning. So it's, you know, again, you know, like my thoughts, my suggestions, my opinions, maybe doing a little bit of cropping. The horizon looks reasonably level. You're out in Colorado, so if that's where these were taken, you don't have level horizons all the time, but it gives a good context. So maybe a little bit of cropping, just some suggestions. The tulips in the front are sharp enough and leading back for the depth of field challenge. I gave this an 8. There.
A wasp and a sunflower.
Okay. You know, bugs and butterflies and all of these spiders and critters, they're just challenging. I think it's interesting in this image that we've got kind of these complementary colors with the black and the yellow, and the black with the dark and the yellow of the flower. The background, I think, for the most part, you know, you get what you get, right? But what I might consider is filling some of this in, darkening this green here, so that our eye really goes and here. All of this in the center is well done. The wasp is sharp. So there's some good balance in the colors, and just kind of relieving some of the things that draw your eye. Our eyes are drawn by the dark areas as well as the light. I gave this an 8. The wasp was sharp.
Neat lorikeet.
The eye is reasonably sharp. When I went to 100%, it was a little bit of softness, and I don't know what anybody's using, but I will say that again, the Nik software, Color Effects Pro, has detail extractor, and it's amazing what kind of detail it pulls out. So that's just something to think about. The background looks shallow enough for me. I gave this an 8.
Treasure at its feet.
I love the background. The background is so soft and complementary to the trees and the berries, and the robin is certainly sharp enough. The only thing that I would probably suggest is dealing with, you know, these little things that are up in the top. Just kind of cleaning those things up. I give this a 9. It's a really beautiful feeling image too. Not just that the detail is there. You might also just perhaps consider darkening, you know, adding a little bit of contrast in the bird area, but aside from that, well done.
The Devils in the Dahlias.
Dahlias are one of my favorite flowers, and the Japanese beetles are not really highly favored in any of our flowers. Love the level of detail in the beetle and enough of the dahlia, that soft background in the top. I'm left-right challenged. Sorry, I got to hold my hand up. In the top left corner and behind the beetle, very nicely handled. I gave this a 10. Love the colors also.
Lupine.
A little bit too much depth of field here and a little bit busy. So if we were to isolate some of those lupines a little bit more, maybe propping in, repositioning and whatnot, I think that it would be a stronger image. Up in the top corner, you know what I'm going to say, right? So I should stop drawing. But those are things, and the background being a bit busier. I gave this a 7 because the depth of field is not as shallow as it could be for this competition.
Waiting for the Lineman.
What a great image that provides context, not only in the title, but also the detail, the black and white, the soft background behind the wire. And also, you know, you might say, well, she talks about the things that are poking in the frame, but the trees there's enough of it that provides context. If I were to say anything, and it would be minor, it's this little knot in the wood that I might just make disappear. Aside from that, I give this a 10.
The Spanish Fly.
I think that this could use maybe a little bit of brightening. I think the fly itself is nicely captured, and the background is sufficiently soft. Love the colors. I gave this an 8.
Milkweed Pod.
So when we've got a subject like this, we've got to have some sharp edges. The background itself is well done in most of the frame. We've got some bright areas that could just be toned down, but it's really hard to find a strong edge here. We had some you know, harsher lighting on the fuzz, so to speak. I gave this a 7. If we've got the star in the image, we've got to have somewhere for our eye to go.
Water droplets on wire mesh.
I think this is a lovely image. You know, the challenge is like, well, which wire, right? So we've chosen the front wire, and the balancing act that we have to do when we choose these types of things is, okay, the wire, the drops, where do we want, you know, the where do we want the eye to rest? The wire is sharp. The drops are a little bit soft. Beautiful background. Love the bokeh in the back that shows there are more drops in this image. I gave this a 9. And I hope you understand that I recognize the challenges that are, involved in some of these images, and appreciate that.
Fred, let's go ahead and hit the 2 critique images, and then we'll come back to the second half of the competition for the 9s and 10s. This is mushrooms.
Okay, so this is just for critique.
It is, yeah. We want people to submit images for critique only.
Okay.
We want you to give your same discussion and
Sure.
high points, low points. And I would say go ahead and give it a score also.
Okay.
Even though we don't count it in a person's annual total, it does give the image maker some kind of reference as to what this might do in a future competition, because they get to submit these in future competitions.
Sure. These are very cool mushrooms, and I would guess that there's some focus stacking involved because there's a lot of ins and outs and detail within this clump of mushrooms. Appreciate the black and white. The background is really nice and clean. And if I had to do it over, which I don't, and the person does not have to either, the bottom area where the mushrooms are resting, and whether it's on a log or if it's just turned for a horizontal, is there's some bright areas that I may just kind of tone down, especially this over here that again pulls your eye. The mushroom itself is so nicely done that some of these areas, I'm just always looking to try to get some level of evenness to them, whether it's a texture or the tone. I would give this an 8.
And our last image, this is pear.
So the pear is the star of the show, and I think that it is sharp enough. There's a nice little edge of sharpness in this bottom area close to the stem, where I think I find challenges is number one, this section here starts to kind of lead the eye away from the pear. So, doing it over, if you have this pear in front of you again or something similar, I might try a vertical shot and really isolate, because then it would be easier to control the background. The background is not bad, but we've got all this softness that is distracting, and some of these, I hate drawing so much, but I want to point out the areas that are problematic to think about next time. I would give this a 7.
Yep, that's the one. Cottonwood leaf, this was from Dave Hull. I didn't see Dave on Zoom this evening. He said that you photographed this lone cottonwood leaf in Cherry Creek State Park in early October.
Something else that I noticed, and I'm not sure if I said anything about, but the the way this kind of like is holding the leaf is also a nice little feature as well.
That's a nice point. All right, so again, this is Hanging in There from David Besson.
Again, thanks for your comments, Jamie. This spider was kind of in a somewhat of an industrial complex area. It's a hydroelectric dam on the Snake River, and he was hanging against the chain link fence, which is what's comprising the background. I had the challenge of part of the concrete behind the chain link fence was in shadow, and part was in light, which led to that upper right dark corner. And I tried to kind of even out the tones, but obviously I needed to do more work. And frankly, on that bottom left part of the web, I went back and forth, including it and excluding it and cropping it out and adding it back in. I kind of like the, centering the spider more and seeing the whole kind of web complex, if I could put it in those terms. And that anchor was kind of interesting to me. So I ended up leaving it in, but your point is very well taken. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And if you see how the oblique line of the other part of the web is kind of coming down, maybe just cleaning it so that would create that shape down at the bottom.
Right.
Right. Just extending it, and then your eye, yeah, it's a dance and a battle. But I think that would alleviate bringing the attention down to that corner by.
Agreed. Yeah. But I thought we needed a spider for Halloween, so.
This is a great spider.
Thanks again.
Thank you for your consideration, David.
Always.
Nice. Treasure at its feet. This is from Terry Hanford.
This was taken in my front yard. It's with a 400 millimeter lens, which gave the nice creamy background or bouquet or bouquet or whatever it is. Yeah, so I think I just loved the berries too much. So I had a hard time cleaning them out of the upper corners, but thank you for your comments, and I'll definitely think about that.
Yeah, I mean the color, the way it feels is just lovely. And sometimes that's how we respond to an image, is not so much by the subject matter, but the subject matter and how it makes us feel when we look at it. It's just a very pleasant image to look at.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. The Devils in the Dahlias is from Joy Lindholm. And she had written, as anyone who gardens in Colorado will know, this is a Japanese beetle, aka the scourge of the devil. Normally, when I encounter these in my garden, I drown them in a bowl of soapy water as they decimate anything and everything in their path. But this day I was photographing bees and saw it on my dahlias. Before dispatching it, I couldn't resist capturing its incredible detail up close. This is a single exposure macro image. Joy has done a number of stacked macro images for us before.
Yeah, this is very well done.
Waiting for the Lineman. This is from Steve Wilton. And Steve had written, this was a utility pole with dangling cable attached by wire. I went back 2 weeks later to shoot it again, but the pole had been replaced. Good that he took the opportunity the first time. It's a really nice image. And water droplets on wire mesh is from Oz Fenninger, who is off gallivanting somewhere around the world. He sent me an email a couple weeks ago. This photo was taken in my sister-in-law's garden on the North Oregon coast on a wet morning. He said, I like the curvy lines of the out-of-focus water droplets on the wire junctions with the various colors in the background. And Fred, let's go ahead and look at the mushrooms in the pear image, and we'll talk to Ben about them. All right, so mushrooms is from Ben Hernandez.
Yeah, you're correct. That's focus stacking. I have to say, I am really appreciating your input and your critique. I see what you're seeing, and that's definitely going to force me to go ahead and once again revise my work and try to come up or try to look at it from different perspectives. So thank you very much for your commentary. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, do you do the the stacking manually?
No, my camera has focus stacking automatically.
Which camera?
It's a Canon RP.
Okay. Yeah, it's nice when they do that for us, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm lazy. I'll take it.
It simplifies things a bit, that's for sure.
Good
I
job.
just I love all the textures and the different size mushrooms in there and the way it arches around. That's really nice. It's a good shot, Ben.
Yeah,
Thank you.
F45 would not get this.
Right.
Definitely.
And our pair image.
So on this one, once again, I do appreciate your commentary. I am looking at this image from a different point of view than when I first originally decided to go ahead and put it up for review. I'm not agreeing with you 100%, but once again, I appreciate it, right? My thought was I really like the leading verticals and the self focus going up to the contrast in the pair, but honestly, I do see where you're coming from, and I do see where I can make this image better. And while I might not agree with you, I do appreciate your commentary. Thank you, sincerely.
You're welcome. And it's like anything I've said, nobody has to agree with me. You've just asked for my input.
No, and it's very appreciated. And as I said, just because I mean, the rule of the game is that we don't have to agree, right? And
That's
you see
right.
things in a different way that I do. But at the end of the day, that's what makes us better photographers when we take the time to be able to appreciate what what other people are seeing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben,
When I first looked at this picture, I saw this guy was like one of those balloon men in front of the car dealership.
Right. I'm just looking at that guy. Yes, you're right.
I just couldn't get that out of my head, man. That's distracting me from looking at the pair.
Well, yeah, you guys just ruined this picture, or it made it even better. So I don't know.
There you go.
hey Ben, a quick technical question. Did you happen to use fill flash on this to get the light so intense on the pair?
No, sir. This was around 5:30 in the morning in Seattle, Washington, about a month and a half ago. So that was natural light.
Okay.
I was on a farm, so yeah, that was just reflection and the dew and all the stuff that magnifies the scene.
Nice. And it's good to know that, car dealership, inflatable men like pairs.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Well, here's just another thought. I don't know how many of you actually bring with you, carry, and use a 22-inch diffuser. But the diffuser evens out the light, but still allows, the closer you have the diffuser, the more light comes in. So that a lot of times can help your backgrounds.
Yeah, you're right. And as I said, the more I'm looking at this image, the less I'm liking it. And the car dealer dude, inflatable guy, it's really bothering me right now. But once again, as I said, initially my reaction was like, well, but just hearing what he had to say and what Carl had to say and the comments, I mean, that's why we're here, right? We want to be better storytellers, photographers, whatever you want to call it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. All right. Well, that is the end of the show. We are done. So, Jamie, do you have any overall words of wisdom to impart upon us before we all disperse?
I don't know. I mean, when I am out photographing and I'm taking my time and not in a hurry, and even when I am in a hurry, I'm always asking myself a few questions. One of them is, why did I stop? Why did I stop here? What is holding my attention? And who's the star of the show? Who are the supporting characters? And who are the characters within the frame that need the hook, that need to go? And sometimes those characters can be removed while you're in place, and other times you do everything that you can to get rid of the distractions, but know that it's not possible until you get back on the computer. So those are just kind of questions that run through my head really kind of all the time.
Excellent. Yeah, we've had judges in the past, because on a number of images, I know you commented about this thing up in the corner and this thing on this edge and things like that. And we have a couple of judges who use the term edge patrol, which is whether you're looking through the viewfinder or when you're actually doing your photo editing. If you just go around the edges, just take a look and see if there's anything that's pulling your eye or distracting or impinging on the composition that you can remove and make it stronger.
Yeah, and sometimes we're just so enamored by the subject that we just don't see it,
Right. Yeah, it's like
that and schmutz on your sensor. Either clean your sensor or do the patrol across the frame for the spots.
There you go. Well, yeah, I don't think I've ever found a tool in Lightroom that says schmutz remover, but maybe that's something you'll add in.
I grew up on Long Island, and I think that it's
from New York originally myself. Yeah, so
I think it's a Jewish word.
It is definitely. Yep.
And it's a good word, because that's what it looks like on your picture.
Yes, I heard it from my grandmother a number of times when I was younger. She goes, "Hey, you got some schmutz on you."
There you go.
It's like, thanks. Get your spit-laden thumb away from me, lady.
I have a question for you. I don't think you do any street photography. I didn't see anything on your website. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway,
no.
Many of your comments and your very accurate comments of my own photos about distracting backgrounds. I'm wondering if in street photography you need to let the background show itself a little bit more. Otherwise, you've isolated what you call the star of the show.
Right.
Much, and now it's not. There's no street.
Right, and I think street photography is just one of those venues that has its own set of parameters, and the background is sometimes just as important as the subject. The reason I made any kind of comments about the background on some of them that had people, the singer, was because of the challenge, which was shallow depth of field. But if it was street photography, I probably would have said the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to context. You have your main subject, but without if everything is blurred in the background, then you don't have the same context to relate to the subject that you do, when you're shooting at f8 and B there, as they used to say. So
yeah.
If there are no other questions or anything else, Jamie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here, and I'm going to put you on my judges roster, and we'll probably contact you for next year, perhaps the year after, or maybe we can get you to do. Do you do presentations for camera clubs also?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. All right. Well, I'll pass your information on to our program guy. So
sounds good. Thank you very much for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate all your commentary on all our images this evening, and hope to have you back again.
Okay. Have a good evening.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening, and we'll see you in November, our program meeting, where Ben will regale us with his journey in Camera Club. And
stop it. I don't need the pressure. I really don't need the extra pressure. It's just going to be basic. Just push the convert to black and white on Lightroom, and that's it.
Okay. All right. Well, shortest presentation this year. Still looking forward to it. Thank you, Ben. All right.
Bye, guys.
Good night, everybody. All righty.
Thanks. Bye-bye.